Yeah, no, that's not me playing that guitar. I don't even know how to play guitar. I don't even know why I have a guitar. But anyway, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Cobra Kai Pawncast. Drew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Are you sure that wasn't you playing? It looked like it.
Uh, yeah, it was me playing.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So, everyone, again, I'm Matt Borlenghi. I play Lyle, the Pawnshop Guy, hashtag Pawnshop Guy on Cobra Kai. And it was a super, super cool run that I will forever be grateful for. And, Drew and I got to talking a little while back. In case you missed episode 1, which there's really no excuse for it because you just click the video before this one and you see episode 1. But guess who I heard from? Whom? Guess whom I heard from him? Guess whom I heard from uh, after the first episode dropped? The one, the only, Billy
Dun, dun,
Zabka.
dun, 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 dun. It sounds like you're introducing him to like
To
like a
MMA
basketball
fighter
game.
Billy
Yeah.
Zabka. And of course, Billy plays Johnny Lawrence. And you know what? The fact that, he said the things he did and, digs what happened. And, he was the first one to say, you know what? The realness, the honesty, the vulnerability, everything that happened in episode 1, um, that's what made it all the more interesting to him because there's so much toxic stuff out there, so many podcasts and news things. And remember, we said we're not getting into politics at all on this podcast, but there's a lot of toxicity out there, a lot of toxic people, and we're not going there. That's not what this is about. This is about, you know, talking just as regular human beings who are just trying to get by. And of course, talking Cobra Kai and everything else. So, some people might wonder how I came to be the pawn shop guy. And it happened. I moved from Los Angeles to Atlanta at the end of 2017. I think I pulled into the driveway October 9th. And within 3 weeks, I was going through the process of becoming the pawn shop guy. So, oh, hey, folks, you like the mic setup now? So I'm not, it doesn't sound like I'm, talking from across the room. I had it, but being the genius that I am, I had it set up way over there. I figured, oh, it's a great mic, it's sensitive. But, you know, this was also one of Billy's comments. He's like, dude, maybe get a mic. And I was like, dude, I have one. I just floundered when it came to setting it up in the right spot. Um, and he also encouraged me to, maybe jazz up my background a little bit. And I said, well, guess what? I appreciate all the wonderful thoughts and everything, but we're working from a $0 budget here. But it kept on ringing true for me. The fact that he took the time, and that's the kind of guy that Billy is. He's just such a good human and a grateful actor. Because listen, after Karate Kid and all that, I mean, there are how do you follow that up? And, Billy, he's solid. He's been working for years on different projects. And then, when he and Ralph came up with the idea of Cobra Kai, um, and got together with the big three, uh, um, the creators of the show. I mean, the way this show took off, he could have just turned into, just such a big-headed guy, like so many other actors do. Not necessarily, I'm not talking about Cobra Kai actors. I'm talking about just in general. I touched on that in episode 1. Be grateful, be humble when you get a shot. Love the moment. Enjoy the moment. Don't become an insufferable prick about it, whether you're female or male. Don't be a jerk about it, be grateful. And, working with Billy, he's so generous on set, our time together was just like some of the best moments of my career to date. And that's the God's honest truth, because he's so just real, and the way we were able to play off of each other, and even between takes and whatnot, just sitting around talking about stuff that matters in life, kids, family. He's just a super guy, and the fact that I had sent him a Valentine's message. The day before, I had sent him the link to episode 1, saying, "Hey, I'm curious what you would think about this," and I left it. And then on Saturday, on Valentine's Day, I sent him a Valentine saying, "Happy Valentine's Day, Cuddle Bear." And he came back with, "Hey, yeah, thank you. That's the nicest card and the only one I've gotten. But I'm gonna check that out." And I figured, I appreciate that. Cool. Let me know. And I figured, 2-3 weeks, maybe I'd hear back something. But I mean, overnight, I woke up yesterday to messages from him saying, "Okay, I watched it. Great start. Great concept. Love the vulnerability. All these wonderful notes from a production standpoint. How about this and that?" And I was so just touched, really, because he didn't have to do that. He's Billy Zabka, and yes, he is human first, but there were probably 1,500 other things he could have done instead of watching our Pawncast, and to watch it so quickly and come back and be in support of it and dig what we're doing here. You are the Dalai Lama, Billy Zabka. So when I first got the call about, "Hey, what do you think of playing a role on Cobra Kai?" It's the TV version 35 years later after Karate Kid. I didn't know what to expect. I thought, well, yes, I grew up on Karate Kid, huge fan. And you say that it's the original dynamic duo of Daniel San and Johnny Lawrence. You're telling me it's Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka? Seriously? Yes, please. And when I saw the role, I didn't see myself in the role. I had a very kind of a stereotypical, presumption of what they'd be looking for. And, I figured, if what they're looking for fits what's in my head, I'm never booking this anyway. So let's let's just make it the way I see it. And they'll either dig it or they won't. And, I kind of made him this guy who's, just, sees some tool walk in all the time and always thinks that, his or her stuff is dynamite and should be worth $1 zillion. And, that's why I put, certain sarcastic tones into it. And, lines like, yeah, if you happen to have 60,000 of these lying around at home somewhere, maybe, that's why I hit certain, inflections on certain words. Like, yeah, if you happen to have 60,000 of these, and just was loose and fun with it, and, well loved, it was all just my take on it. And when I sent the tape to my agents, I forgot about it. I was like, yeah, okay, well, that was a fun idea. That's not happening. And then all of a sudden, it was, the call came that, no, you're the Pawnshop Guy. And the way they always welcomed me, the big three, was just, it just blew me away. I've talked about this before. What a wonderful experience the show is and was, and the working environment and the support. It really, it gets played out a little bit, I think, when you hear people say, oh, we were a family and whatnot. But I really felt like it was, because look, in my head, I'm just, this little piece of the puzzle. And, I really am. But the way the entire production makes each little piece of the puzzle feel like the puzzle could not be complete without that little piece. That is something that was never lost on me. When I was shocked that they wanted to bring me back for season 2, I remember I was sitting around waiting for my stuff to come up, and I was sitting in a chair away from Video Village, which is where the monitors and the producers and writers are sitting watching the other stuff being filmed. And, after they were done with that, the big three, Hayden, Josh, and John, came over to me to welcome me back. And they were like, so happy you're back. And I was like, I'm happy I'm back. I can't believe, I thought I was one and done. And they said, no. We said it before that we're building the world and you're part of the world. And we got to tell you that, the last few months in the writer's room, we have all been sitting around wondering how you were going to say your lines this time. And that was such an enormous compliment that I've never forgotten, because at that moment, it became so clear to me why I was back, why I became the Pawnshop Guy in the first place, because my going against the grain of what, the stereotype may have been, it mattered and it showed them. And I always, I've coached acting. I always say, find something different. Ignore, if you see a billion exclamation points in the script, saying, oh yeah, they're shouting now. It's much more interesting to go against the grain. You don't have to shout. Of course, it depends on what's happening in the scene. If you're trying to save someone and you don't think they can hear you and it makes sense to shout. But, shouting isn't always best. because 99 out of 100 people are going to try to show how loudly and forcibly they can shout. And it's much more interesting. It can be, and it may work, it may not, but it's much more interesting, because I've also cast and produced projects. And I know that if someone, if people are leaning back in chairs watching tape after tape, or, in the days of live auditions, if they're leaning back watching one person after another doing the same thing, you have them. If once, as an actor, once you're talking, if they lean in and they're thinking, what did he just do? How did she just say that? I never even thought of that. And it just opens up their world more. You know what I mean? It makes it more interesting. But anyway, so that's how I became Pawnshop Guy, being different, making it, my own, what sounded funny, because I wanted it also to be, comic relief. The show, has its comedic moments, and I wanted him to be just kind of a break. And what was genius, part of the genius of the big three in their writing, is that every time I was on an episode, they, in one way or another, my scenes with Billy would set up his next course of action. You know what I mean? It would like set up the theme for what was going on. So all of a sudden, yeah, I may be, on screen for 1 minute or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever. It was partially setting up the plot for the rest of the episode, what happened in Billy's life or Johnny's life. So it was just really cool to be used by them so well, and not just to be, okay, yeah, he went to a pawn shop, blah, blah, blah. Now Johnny took something away from the pawn shop, even if he left empty-handed with no money, or full-handed, taking his crap away with him. He took away something, in his head. But enough about me for now as the pawn shop guy. Another segment that we're going to be introducing now, that Drew and I agreed could be kind of cool, is going to be, and cue the graphics, real pawn talk. And so what I am going to be doing is going into, well, you know what? I want you to meet a real pawn guy. We want you to see a real pawn shop. And I'm going to be talking with a real pawn guy, and maybe a bunch of them, but I really like this first guy. I mean, he's so cool. Go ahead. Let's run it. All right, I'm here at LA Pawn Shop out here in Ackworth, Georgia. And I'm going to go check it out. Well, heck, this shop is a lot bigger than my shop on the show. They have just about everything in here. And that's something we never saw on the show. Look at those long rifles. Cool damn shop. And you never know what you're going to find in a pawn shop. Look at this. Two of my favorite things, the movie Forrest Gump and Dallas Cowboys helmet. So, of course, I come into LA Pawn just as they're getting ready to close. So I'm going to try to grab Tony real quick because he's super cool. I heard someone talking a minute ago, and I didn't see any here, but prosthetics?
Yes. I've had a few people come in with prosthetic legs because that stuff is very expensive, and they'll think that they can get some money out of it, so they'll come in and get it. But I end up not buying that stuff. Here's come somebody right here.
And why not?
Because it's too personable, and it's their leg,
Yeah.
it's their arm.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I do like the run of the mill stuff, man, like guitars and guns and jewelry and anything. We used to not do guns. Now that we do guns, we'd say, we do anything but guns. Bring us anything but guns. But now that we do guns, we do everything. So there's no telling. It really is true. Like, you never know what you're going to get.
And
like,
what's the best day of the week for you at a place like
Saturdays
this?
are good. Saturdays. Beginning of the week, first of the month.
Saturdays are so good that you close at 3?
They close at 3, exactly. Yeah.
So that's why it's the best day, right?
Yeah. Well, we're just so busy.
Yeah.
Man. Busy, from 10 to 3 on Saturdays it's a long 5 hours, man. You get some done in them 5 hours, but.
And he's been real patient with me, considering it's past closing time, so I'm going to cut him loose. But hey, Tony,
you need to come back.
I would like to come back because you know what? I feel like this would be cool to have my real life pawn guy on the steady. So each week, maybe you can tell us like the most interesting thing that came in.
You'll see stuff up here that I won't even notice, and you'll say, "Oh, that is so funny." You'll bring it up to me, not even me bringing it up to you. So yeah, come back and see me for sure.
All right, we'll be back with Tony. Thank you so much, brother.
Appreciate it.
So I just learned something pretty cool that I had no idea about. See this 3-ball symbol? It's like the universal symbol for pawn shops. And what the 3 balls represent is 3-to-1 odds that whatever a person pawned, they're not coming back for it. He was literally trying to close up the shop. I mean, and go home. And little snippets, after he put the stuff away and I cut on that. Then he said, "Hey, you know what those 3 balls on the window are, right?" I said, "No," and I feel really dumb because I'm a pawn shop guy. And he told me that story. 3-to-1 odds. Most folks take something in. They're looking for the cash, and they're not coming back for it. But there are people who just need to get through for 2 weeks or something, and they'll come back because it was a family heirloom or keepsake or something like that. So I like Tony a lot. He was super cool, and I'm thinking I'm going to go back to him on the regular. He did, and he was cool enough also that he knows the people at another pawn shop, and he's like, "You should go talk to them too." So, maybe we'll get a little diversity in there as far as, not limiting ourselves to one shop. But I just connected with him, and truth be known, I'm sitting there, with my phone, trying, and a couple of times talking with him, I actually, as I turned the phone around, it stopped recording. So I thought I had this great info from him, and it was gone. I just didn't have the heart to try to make him repeat what he said. And I want to keep it organic, just talking with him like we were. I don't want it to be setups. I want it to be whatever comes. This is a place of honesty, and going with your gut. So I wanted to stick to that. But now I think it's time for our next segment, which, I think we're both fans of, and hopefully the ladies out there will, because it's called For the Ladies. And you know what? I was thinking about it more and more. And I still, while the idea is like during the course of the podcast to offer, like I said, safety tips and, things like that from a guy's perspective, I'm not sure that I want to jump into that already in episode 2. So I'm going with another joke. So a guy with no arms and no legs is in a beach chair near the ocean, and he's just laying there. I mean, what else is he going to do? But he's just lying there in the sun, enjoying the ocean sounds. And a lady comes walking by and looks at him, and she feels something, and she just, she sees a certain sadness in his eyes and says, "Excuse me, sir. I don't know, maybe this is too forward, but have you ever been hugged?" And he says, "No, I've never been hugged." And she hugs him and says, "Have a good day," and leaves. A few minutes later, another lady comes walking by, sees him. She says, "Sir, have you ever been kissed?" And he says, "No, I've never been kissed." And she kisses him and walks away, and he's just feeling so good about himself. And then a third lady who saw this comes walking over and says, "Sir, I saw that. Have you ever been screwed?" And he says, "No, I've never been screwed." And she says, "Well, you will be when the tide comes in." So, yeah. Hope you ladies got a giggle out of that. When I tell a joke, I'm trying to tell it from, girl power perspective. So I know we got to wrap it up, Drew. And I want to just go back to touching upon the fact that this place that we've opened up to the world, it's not like the podcasts, so many podcasts that there are out there that are just filled with just toxic masculinity and rah, 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 and hate, 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 and, suppress, suppress, suppress. No, this is about men feeling comfortable being men with whatever is on their mind, whatever feelings that they're having. A lot of us go through really hard times, and it's okay to share that with us. Reminder, folks, questions, comments, make a little selfie video. Boom. "Hey, Matt, Drew, I was wondering about this," or whatever. What's Billy like? Awesome guy. Make the little selfie video, send it to Cobra Kai Kid, the number 1 at gmail.com. And you can be on the show the way Jaden was in episode 1. We love that. But go ahead, Drew, hit me with the written.
Yes. So we have a question from Sheila. Sheila asks, are there any bloopers you'd like to share while filming Cobra Kai?
Billy caught me off guard. In one scene, I forget which season it is, but where I sell him the lemon computer, and he's calling me. And he's saying, I need help, whatever. And that's where I was like, hey, this isn't the Geek Squad. This is the pawn shop. There's a pawn shop, whatever. Figure it out. And it was on, I don't remember how I was holding the phone. Oh, he was talking in the background. Whatever it was, he started throwing curveballs at me. He was like telling me, dropping F-bombs and having all this fun with me, like, "You stupid sack of crap," and blah, 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 blah. And I froze. I was like, holy crap. Part of me is thinking I could run with this and just give it back to him, or I can just stay silent because I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble. And I froze. And that was my personal embarrassing blooper, was freezing up and not just going to town on Billy the way he was going to town on me. And of course, that was all meant just for fun and everything. It was never going to make it to the show. But hey, maybe if I had come back with something witty, it would have. But the scenes all play exactly the way they play. I will Sheila, I will tell you one thing that people have asked me about so many times, and it could have been a blooper, but it actually made it into the show, which I was so thrilled about. He comes into the pawn shop, and I come walking out from the back, and I'm zipping up my pants, and no one said anything to me when I did that. I was like, I'm doing it. It's my choice. It's what I'm thinking to be different and not just come walking out of the back saying, hey. So I came out zipping my pants, knowing that people were going to say, what the hell was he doing back there? And just leaving it an open question. What was he doing? Was he going pee? Was he doing something else? What the hell? Why is he walking out zipping up his pants? And so it's not a blooper, Sheila, but it could have just been a blooper, and they could have said, hey, yeah, let's not do that. But they dug the fact that I had an original thought like that, and that it worked because it was so Lyle to be doing that.
But I was always curious about that moment.
Why didn't you ever ask me? We've known each other a while now.
I know. I assumed you were just like coming back from a pee.
Yeah, it could have been that.
I mean, do you have a specific answer, or is it up to audience interpretation?
It's up to the audience. What was Lyle doing in the back? So was it number 1, number 2, or number 3? Who
Comment
knows?
below.
Thank you again for being here, guys and gals. Maybe one of these episodes coming up, you'll get to thank Billy in person. I'm not promising anyone anything, but we just might have the honor of having an outstanding human being come in and say hi. So, all right, everyone. Strike first, strike hard. Take care.